Screech by Taran NCT on AO3. Episode 12, Chapter 12. Izuku was glad that by the time he had woken up in the morning, the slight ringing that had been plaguing his ears since the alarm the day before was gone. He shuffled out to the kitchen and was greeted by the sight of Hizashi and Shouta leaning against each other, sipping their coffees. "Hey there, Izu. Sleep okay?" Hizashi asked. "Yeah, the ringing is finally gone too." He got a mug and started to pour himself a cup of coffee. "That's good. I'm about to make breakfast. Do you want eggs or fish?" Hisashi finished his coffee and started the machine for a second pot. Neither. I think I'll just have some toast, please." Izuku sat at the table while Hisashi started cooking, not wanting to be in his way, and Shouta joined him moments later. Izuku loved watching Hisashi in the kitchen. That man was a force to be reckoned with. He was so talented with everything he did, from his hero work to teaching, to quirk counseling, his radio show, and now cooking. This life here is too good to be true. This won't last. Izuku closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Not now. Why do these thoughts always have to show up when he's happy? He felt a slight touch on his hand, and he opened his eyes to see Shouta had touched him, and was looking at him with concern deep in eyes. "You okay, Zu?" Izuku smiled, a small smile. "Yeah, I'm okay, thanks." Shouta gently patted his hand, and retreated back to his side of the table, and finished his coffee. And Izuku heard Hitoshi stumbling down the hallway, still half asleep. Izuku snorted, as Hitoshi nearly tripped over his own feet as he turned the corner, only preventing from falling on his face by the quick reflexes of Hisashi, who caught him just as he started to trip. Hisashi pressed a quick kiss to Hitoshi's forehead and let out a sweet, musical hum that Izuku could feel all the way into his soul. The sound was almost like Hisashi's personal wake-up song. The frequency and pitch combined perfectly and resonated with the bodies of whomever heard it, and was able to help jumpstart them into a state of alertness. It didn't last too long, but was definitely long enough to get a mug of coffee passed to Hitoshi's hands and directed to the table. "Thanks, Pa." "Anytime, kiddo. Fish or eggs?" Hisashi asked. "Yes." "Both it is," Hisashi agreed with a laugh. "Zuzu, you sure you only want toast?" "I suppose I can eat a little bit eggs, I guess." Hisashi beamed at him. "Great. I know you have a big day ahead of you." Shouta had let the boys know the night before that they were going to go on a trip during heroics class today, and they were both excited. Izuku knew he was good at fighting and information gathering, but he never really had the chance to practice rescue. And while his preferred career path would have much to risk, Shouta had let the boys know the night before that they were going to go on a class trip during heroics class today, and they were both excited. Izuku knew he was good at fighting and information gathering, but he never really had the chance to practice rescue. And while his preferred career path wouldn't have much rescue to it, there was always a chance that he could need rescue training. Hitoshi was much the same. He knew he needed to learn fire rescue and maybe collapse building rescue, but the rest would be just good to know for a random what if on the rare occasion they might decide to go on vacation to who knows where. A few minutes later, and breakfast was on the table, and Izuku was once more in awe of Hisashi's cooking. Damn, what he wouldn't do to be a real part of this family. Izuku had been living with them for nearly 3 months now, and he had never been happier. But he knew this wouldn't last. Sooner or later, they'll decide to give him up, right? He was just here because he had to have a hero watching over him for the Vigilante reform program, and Eraserhead was the hero who got him to turn himself in. They didn't actually want him. "Zubird, I can see something dark swirling behind your eyes," Hisashi murmured worriedly. You want to talk it out? Izuku blinked up at Hizashi, not realizing his emotions had been so obvious. No, no, I'm okay. He smiled softly. Just thinking about things. Okay, baby, if you're sure. When Izuku nodded, Hizashi smiled to himself. Okay, if we're all done with breakfast, let's get ready to head out. Izuku was tracing the seams of his glove as the bus was heading towards the USJ when he felt eyes on him, and he looked up to see Sue. She wanted to be called Sue, looking over at him. Midoriya, I have the tendency to speak my mind, Ribbit, and I have a question for you. It's something I noticed the other day, she asked, her tongue sticking out slightly. Go ahead? Izuku hesitantly allowed. While watching your battle trial, I couldn't help compare you to a vigilante that I heard about, Ribbit. Are you Screech? The blunt question caught most of the class off guard, and all conversation stopped. Izuku wasn't sure if he was allowed to answer the question, but from where he was looking at Sue, he could see Shouta nod his head and heard him whisper, "It's up to you if you want to tell them." So Izuku took a deep breath and said, "Yeah, I'm Screech. I've been a vigilante for about 3 years, but my dream has always been to be a real hero." No way, Midoriya, bro! You're really Screech? That's so manly! Kirishima gushed with a huge grin. Forgive my ignorance, Ida spoke up from the other side of the aisle. But wouldn't vigilanteism prevent you from obtaining a hero license? Uh, yes and no. Izuku shrugged. My circumstances were such that I'm being given a second chance of sorts. I'm in a vigilante reform program, and so as long as the hero mentoring me signs off my actions during certain monthly checkpoints, the vigilanteism won't marge my record. That's pretty cool, Uraraka exclaimed. So, that's how you were able to do so well in the exercise the other day. Izuku blushed a bit and nodded. Yeah, we're here. Shouta called from the front of the bus. Everyone, off. Izuku sighed in relief and hurried off, passing Kaminari, who was just staring at him with huge, starry eyes. He's so cool, Kaminari whispered. Izuku didn't pay any attention to him, instead, gathering around 13 with the rest of the class. He perked up when he heard Shouta ask them where All Might was, and they said something about a time limit? Okay, class. 13 called for their attention. Welcome to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or some call it the USJ. Before we get started, 13 continued to talk, but Izuku found his attention drifting. He really didn't need to pay attention to a lecture about quirk safety. He had full control of his quirk, and he knew how dangerous his quirk could be. It would be so easy to deal lethal damage. It was why he almost never went above a quarter of his full power. Heck, even when he blasted Bakugou the other day, he was only about a third of his power. As he was looking around, he caught Kaminari staring at him, and he blinked. Why was Kaminari staring at him? Did he have something on his face? He blushed when Kaminari winked at him and turned back to 13's lecture. Hitoshi? Izuku murmured, nudging the sort of brother in his side. Why does Kaminari keep looking at me like that? Hitoshi looked over to Kaminari in time to see him shoot another glance at the green-haired boy. Oh, Izu, I love you, but you are one of the most densest people I've ever met. What do you mean? Izuku furrowed his eyebrows and tilted his head when Shouta leaned his head against Hitoshi's shoulder. No, seriously, what do you mean? Shouta snickered and muttered to Hitoshi. I tried. Izuku flicked his gaze between the two of them and tilted his head almost completely upside down in confusion. I don't get it. Both Hitoshi and Shouta blinked at Izuku. They had never seen him turn his head upside down like that, and it was unnerving. Before they could say anything about it, though, Izuku's head snapped back upright, and his pupil dilated as he stared at something a bit in the distance. Izuku snapped out his wings and hopped quickly over to Shouta and chirped, gesturing to the plaza below. A dark purple rift was opening in the plaza, and as it got bigger, it started pouring people out. Dozens of people emerged. Izuku stopped counting at 50, but there were still more. As the kids behind them became confused about what was happening, Shouta called to them. Stay together. This is not part of the exercise. Those are real villains. 13. Get the kids out of here. At the plaza, Izuku could hear the one with light blue hair getting irritated at the fact that All Might wasn't there, that he had come to kill All Might, and how was he supposed to fulfill his mission of killing All Might if he wasn't there? Izuku hissed at him when he said something about killing kids to bring All Might here. Turning back to Izuku, Shouta said, You too, get to safety. He reached for his goggles, only to be stopped by Izuku grabbing his arm. Eraser, your fighting style is one-on-one ambushing. This is not going to play to your strengths, Izuku pointed out. Kid, you can't be a hero if you only got one trick, he countered. That's not what I'm saying, Izuku replied. What I'm saying is this isn't your strength, but it is mine. I'll take them. You help the other kids. Izuku, kid, no. You're a student too. You need to get out of here. I've been a vigilante for 3 years, Eraser. What the fuck makes you think I'm gonna start following orders now? Screech, because he was not Izuku right now, winked playfully at Shouta. Stepped out of my way, Eraser. With that, Screech rolled his shoulders and jumped, spreading his wings wide. He surveyed the villains and took note with amusement that they were bunched up. Perfect. Screech took a deep breath and unleashed his signature attack. Staring at one side of the group of villains and moving to the other, the pure force of his voice pushing them down to their knees. The purple mist villain had disappeared, but the rest were still there, and Screech was not going to let them hurt any of the kids while he was on duty. Seeing some of them starting to collect themselves again, he unleashed his attack again, rendering most of them unconscious. The blue-haired villain with multiple hands over his body had managed to stay standing, as well as a hulking beast of a man with an exposed brain. That just screamed weak point to Screech. After one last look around the gathered group of villains, Screech narrowed his eyes at the last 2 people standing and landed. Nomu, the villain hissed out. Kill the bird. The hulking person, Nomu, screamed and launched at Screech, only to be stopped dead in its tracks by another Screech that surprisingly didn't push the person back. Ha! The villain exclaimed. Do you like my pet? He's got super strength, super speed. You can't stop him with a little scream. He was bioengineered to kill All Might. What do you think some stupid little kid like you can do against my Nomu? He started crackling, filling with an insane glee. Fine, Screech thought to himself. Time to take off the kitty gloves. Screech upped the power behind the next attack, from about 30% to 50%, and he could see the creature's limbs get crushed by the sheer force of the sound waves, until the creature lost its footing and flew backwards into what looked like the side of a mountain. No! What are you doing to my Nomu? The villain shrieked at him. You cheater! You aren't allowed to hurtle sound waves at Nomu! Screech turned to the blue-haired villain. Well, I can always start hurtling more sound waves at you, if you prefer. The purple mist guy portaled back to the blue guy's side. Shigaraki Tomura. I was able to disperse the students throughout the facility. However, one student managed to escape. Kurogiri, if you weren't our ticket out of here, I would have killed you where you stand. Apparently, the guy's name was Shigaraki Tomura. Cool. We should retreat, Kurogiri said. It seems the Nomu master supplied you with is not able to defeat the bird child. He's not dead yet. Shigaraki grinned. and Screech would have been unnerved by that if he hadn't already heard the creature stirring from where he had been buried in the rubble. Though 50 isn't good enough either, he thought to himself. Narrowing his eyes, he saw that part of the creature that had been crushed was mending before his eyes. Super regeneration 2, looks like it. Screech focused on his hearing for a moment, trying to pick out where the rest of the class was, since the Kurogiri guy said that he had dispersed them, and was dismayed to hear that they were, indeed, spread throughout the facility. He needed to finish this quickly, or some could finish their fights, and try to help him here. He didn't know what he would do if Hitoshi or Shouta tried to help with this. They'd get themselves seriously hurt. Refocusing on the Nomu, Screech decided to do the one thing he hated most. He was gonna unleash his Screech at full power at the creature. He closed his eyes briefly, took a deep breath, silently apologizing to the hulking beast that was spiraling back at him, and let loose his Screech in the most narrow, powerful cone he could. And the creature not only stopped in its tracks, but its whole body started vibrating, his Screech hitting at the same frequency as the creature. He could see the regeneration working overtime, trying to keep the creature's body in one piece. Screech gave it 3 seconds revise, then took another deep breath, and then continued the result. This time, though, the beast's regeneration failed it. It exploded in a shower of gore and bits flying everywhere, covering Screech. Pushing down the urge to vomit all over the ground, Izuku took the last 2 villains and raised an eyebrow. Portal, Shigaraki whispered. Open a portal, get us out of here. As soon as the villains were gone, Izuku lost his battle with his stomach and hurled the contents all over the ground. You did not. No. No. No, you did not. No. 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 You did. Okay. I'm scared on how this will be later down the road because Izuku did disobey. But then again, nobody really got in trouble for quirk usage in this event. But at the same time, I'm scared about that, right? I'm also scared about the repercussions because Izuku did technically quote-unquote kill someone, even though that Nomu is already dead and was never really alive, and the best thing to do is put it out of its misery. But Izuku doesn't know that right now. Izuku wholeheartedly believes that he just killed someone. Even as Shigaraki said, bioengineered, like, I would be mortified. I mean, I can't even imagine Izuku mortified. Also, we got a little bit of Izuku and Dinky in this. I guess the author was like, all right, I'm gonna fill you with this very, very interesting and kind of sad, tidbit. But here, the ship. Here, little ship. Have some fun. And then we got in the beginning where Izuku feels as though at one point they're gonna stop caring about him because they're only doing this because Eraserhead is the hero in charge of his program. That Izuku is going to have to leave that Izuku's not part of the family, which is upsetting. Woo, I'm gonna cry. Woo, woo. That's all I'm gonna say. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.